Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Pursuit. I'm your host, Ben Spangle. Excited for another great episode with you today. I've got my friend Sebastian Cruze with me, and you're going to love hearing from him. I've gotten to know him over the last couple months and has built a phenomenal business himself, multiple actually, and done an amazing job. And him and I have connected lots. We got a lot of similar interests. I think you're going to love hearing from Sebastian. Sebastian is the founder of True Freedom. He created the Guaranteed Freedom program. And so he does a lot of great stuff with entrepreneurs there and teams, and excited to talk about that. So Sebastian, thanks for your time today.
Absolutely. Happy to be here, Ben.
It's awesome. So first things first, I always love people to get to know you and a background on you. So why don't we start with that? I mean, what do you do today? And then let's take I know it wasn't always that way, so we'll talk a bit of the journey there.
Yeah, absolutely. So my business called True Freedom helps teams work in flow state so they can accomplish more in less time. And it's interesting. Recently, I was just thinking about that. Is time has always been a part of my life. And when I was growing up, one of my parents was working all the time, and the time aspect was not there. And kind of like looking back to where I'm at now, if anybody knows love languages, quality time is top of my list.
Mm.
So it's interesting, and this is usually something I don't share, but just kind of going back, that time has always been this thing that I've always wanted more of, but there wasn't that reflection growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first started my business, I was 19, and after a while, certain things clicked. It was a marketing agency,
Mm-hmm.
and we started growing very quickly. And there was a point in time where we 11x'd our revenue in 9 months.
Wow.
So I was the youngest in the company, and I was the owner of the company, and we ballooned to 25 full-time team members.
Wow.
And it's interesting, like all I knew how to do at that time was work more, work
Mm.
harder, work longer, put in more hours. And it's like, looking back at my childhood, that's what was reflected to me. Just
Mm-hmm.
put more hours in. And pretty soon I found myself working 100-hour work weeks. And I was proud of it too.
Right.
I remember
Right.
like tracking it and be like posting it on Facebook too, and be like, "Oh, look at this world. I'm worthy. I'm
Right.
a man."
Yeah.
And during that time, I was introduced to a spiritual mentor
Mm-hmm.
who showed me this thing called a soul contract, and it was a personality profile of basically who you are inside, your true self,
Mm-hmm.
your true path, and the blocks that get in the way along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was going through the session with him, that was a point. I think I was 20-ish around that time, and at that point in my life, all I cared about was looking good and making money. Like
Right.
it was
Right.
totally superficial.
Yeah.
Like that's all it was. And yet at the same time, here was this tool like really getting into the core of things, into the heart of things. And I remember just the insights just hitting me right in the chest and be like, wow, this is just like, wow, it's giving me chills.
Mm.
And so after the call, I remember being there like, this is the most profound thing in my life I've ever heard. Like, do I focus more on the soul contract, spiritual inner work,
Mm-hmm.
or do I keep focusing on the money?
Mm.
And I looked back and forth and I was like, focusing on the money.
Right.
I'll focus on the spiritual stuff when I'm retired and rich.
Right.
And so on I went, and lo and behold, things started busting at the seams. Fast forward a little bit, and the company imploded because all those things that were the inner blocks
Yes.
came to be. And I remember my mentor Nicholas sharing with me at the time. This was before he shared with me that, hey, the inner blocks that you have inside, the more money you have and the more team that you have, those blocks will become more apparent on the outside.
Mm.
And so at the time he was telling me like, okay, so if you address these inner block deals, then when you grow, you'll be able to sustain your growth and
Mm.
grow more and more. Again, I chose the keep focusing on the money and looking good portion. So lo and behold, those blocks ended up manifesting, and things burst at the seams and imploded, and
Mm.
I lost it all.
Mm.
And so that was my rock bottom moment of moving back in with my mom, which
How
was,
old were you then? Just like timeline wise?
I think I was 21. I was
21.
21.
Okay. So a couple
Yeah.
years after the business 11x, then yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And so for a boy with an ego, that was like a knife in the heart to me because I
For
was like,
sure.
and
Yeah.
I had before that I had known everything in the world,
Right.
you know. So I moved back in, and then payroll was still. I still It took me some time to actually fire everybody and let everybody go. So I went into debt, and then also there were certain projects that we still had to finish, or I still had to finish. I wanted to
Mhm.
finish. So yeah, it was a dark time for me, and it culminated me like literally being in the fetal position, in the basement, and just crying and sobbing. And I was just like, man, like I'm trying to do a good thing here, and like it's just not working. Like I just want to end it. I just want to be off this planet. I want to go home. Like, just want to be done.
Wow.
And at that point, like, I just started actually thinking of ways to end it and be
Wow.
done. And after some time passed, I realized that something inside of me would never let me take that final step. I didn't know why, but I was like, oh my God, fuck. That's even more depressing
Wow.
because I'm stuck. Like, I'm stuck here.
Mm-hmm.
And so some more time passed, and then all of a sudden I felt this energy rise up with me, and it was the energy of my purpose. And I said, you know what, fuck it. I know I'm here for service. I know I'm here to serve the world in some way. I know it's a big
Mm-hmm.
way,
Mm-hmm.
and as long as I have a breath in my body, I'm gonna keep doing this. And now that I'd lost everything that I had thought was dear, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, my priorities shifted in that moment. Like, yes, the money's good. Yes, all those things are good, the freedom, but it's like, what's the number one priority? And for me, it was my service, my calling. And so that's when I made the commitment, and I didn't know where that was at that time. So if I always resonate with people who feel that pull, feel that calling, yet don't know where to go.
Right.
So I looked around, and then I said, okay, well, where do I feel that same feeling? And that feeling that I felt was with the soul contract work, with my mentor, with the subconscious clearings.
Mm.
And so I went back to him with humbled eyes. I said, well, let's go ahead and take a look at that, soul contract thing,
Yeah.
and I'll dive back in.
Wow. Amazing. So you started kind of working with him, learning from him. And what do you feel at that point? Because you said when you first learned about that, it was very profound, right? Had
Yeah,
goosebumps from it, and then made the
yeah,
decision, no, I'm going to go for the money. I'll do this later. Get
yeah,
rich first and then do it.
yeah,
And I think there's probably a lot of people that in life, it may not be that exact thing, but the idea definitely of once I do this, then I can really do some of the stuff that I want to do, whether that's more spiritual work, whether that's something they really want to do with their lives. So when you started on this new chapter, this new journey of, all right, I'm going to dive back in, what were some of the initial maybe distinctions you were making, or how did things start to change, and what caused that?
mm. Yeah, it's a great question. So really, during that point in my life, it was feeling based. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was like I used to operate totally with my head,
Mm-hmm.
logic, reasoning, and that just like ran things in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, when I had that moment, like my brain wasn't, when I had my like lowest moment, my brain wasn't logically saying like, oh, because of this, now you focus on service. It was like there's just feeling out of my chest that was just pulling from me. I was feeling pulled towards something. So I feel like, looking back on it now too, there definitely is an art, I feel like, of balancing, okay, our real world responsibilities, our
Mm-hmm.
careers, or our businesses to the point that we currently have them at. And then something starts emerging on the other hand that's pulling us. And that definitely is an art because, like, one way is to just jump off the deep end.
Right.
Yeah, that's one way. uh, and then another way is to do a smooth transition. Tough thing though is oftentimes people get comfortable in their current arrangement, and years pass on, years, decades pass on before they're truly following their calling. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there is an art to that, and for me, it was like following the clues
Mm.
and following the feeling as best I could with my mind trying to always take over.
So give us some examples. So someone's listening, they know there's that feeling, but maybe they're unclear on what is that thing for me? When you say following the clues, expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, so I feel like the simplest way is to, number one, notice where your heart is at.
Hmm.
So I have a friend who's a wealth advisor, Hannah Chapman, and that's what she says. Like, in terms of like finding the flow for you, and I always focus on passion, purpose, and prosperity all coming together.
Okay.
So with her, it's like, where's your heart at in the world? Meaning, like, is it with education? Is it with animals? Is it with the homeless? Like, what type of service is just, you have a special affinity for?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, where's your heart at? And because it's like, it's already there, but sometimes our businesses are in a different direction. So it's like, number one, if we can go there, a lot of natural things start unfolding.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people see our passion, our care, like marketing wise, all these things are done to facilitate trust and build like artificial trust. So it's like, that's a hard way. Or maybe you can just go to the place that you actually care about through and through, and people can feel that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're social creatures designed to sniff out trust, or at least try to. So it's like, where's our heart naturally at? Then let's deploy our skills in that area. And so for me, my heart was naturally in the inner journey, the psychology,
Mm-hmm.
finding people's passion.
Mm-hmm.
When I looked back, and this took me many years to realize, but like ever since I was young, whenever there was a conversation about somebody following their passion, I dropped everything, and I was just like zoned in with them. It could have been, when I was younger. It could have been. I even look back to like nights partying like with my college friends, and like we're in the midst of going somewhere, and then all of a sudden, boom, like that happens, and just like everything dropped. So I would say, where's your heart at? Number one, then you can deploy more of your skills there, and then while you're there, notice one thing: what happens in your body. Does your chest feel like it's opening up,
Mm-hmm.
expansive in light, or does your
Mm-hmm.
chest feel like it's closed?
Right.
It's interesting because after a lot of research, that's one of the things I truly believe is that our subconscious mind like
Mm-hmm.
communicates to us. And there's a great quote by Dr. Bruce Lipton that says the subconscious mind is 100 million times more powerful than the
Mm-hmm.
conscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, we're at the tip of the iceberg trying to use our little conscious mind, or me, trying to use my
Right.
little conscious mind. So I'm just like, all right, well, how about the subconscious? And so our body is a reflection of our subconscious, because we didn't tell our cells to divide today. We didn't tell them
Right.
all these things, our heart to beat today. It's
Right.
all a reflection. So why it communicates in this way is like spiritual teachers have always said, follow your heart.
Mm.
Like, oh, what does your heart say? I always had an issue with that, because I'm like, my heart doesn't feel good about firing these people right now, like,
Yeah,
or
totally.
making tough decisions. So I always had an issue with that. And after many years, it came clear to me that, okay, there's three thinking centers in our body. And
Mm.
this is like from doctors in a book. I think it's called the M3 brain. Forget the book name. But the brain has, I believe, 100 billion neurons.
Mm.
The heart has 40,000 neurons,
Mm.
and the gut has 1 million neurons,
Mm-hmm.
actual neurons. And the electromagnetic field is many times strong of the heart is many
Yes.
times stronger than the brain.
Right.
So I feel like when we notice our chest feeling open or closing, we're getting communication from our subconscious mind, or some would even say your spirit, whatever you decide, whatever resonates with you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's guiding us to our path, that passion, purpose, and prosperity all lines up, I believe.
I love that, man. It's so true. We've actually been talking about on the show in previous episodes of just that, noticing the feeling of what's going on, because in noticing that, it's like your guidance system, right? It tells you, okay, am I on course, off course? And so I think what you're saying is you discovered that is that, and I like how you're making it even more applicable in the sense of taking a look, okay, is my chest feeling more expansive or more contracted?
Right.
And in doing that, if it's more contracted, that's the subconscious telling you, or the spirit side of you, whatever you decide to, whatever you believe, telling you, hey, you're on course or off course, right? This is a good direction, or you might want to course correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it's so fascinating. And I think we can know that whether that's pursuing your passion as you're talking about, or even just in terms of our own thought process about anything. Right? You start thinking a thought that causes you to contract. We know that there's something, okay, this thought is not serving me. It's time to shift that thought process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And some people ask me, like, well, why does the subconscious know the best route?
Mm-hmm.
And I look at it two ways. So if we believe in the subconscious route, I believe that, like, if there was an algorithm that you put different variables in the algorithm, i.e., our personality traits, our experience, our likes, our dislikes, like there's gonna be a most beneficial path of
Mm-hmm.
all those qualities come together, and there's gonna be a most negative path.
Mm-hmm.
So I choose to believe that, like, evolution, like we're trying to evolve more to survive,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe that's like the inner algorithm speaking through our subconscious. On the spirit side of things, if you believe in a higher self, higher self, we came here for a purpose.
Hmm.
Like we came here to experience certain things and ultimately give gifts if we didn't get in our own way. So from a spirit side, it's like, all right, that's the communication coming through to
Hmm.
guide.
Interesting. So talk to me a bit about, let's go down that direction a little bit. I know you and I had talked about even the idea of the spiritual side of business and how that is something that made a massive impact for you. So how would you describe that? And yeah, how would I know passion, purpose, and prosperity? I know all
Yeah.
those things tie in together, but let's talk a bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So like in the simplest, clearest way, I look at it as the inner game.
Hmm.
And so that could be the spiritual, that could be your mind, emotions. So it's the inner game and then the outer game. That's the actual things that are happening in the business, life, relationship. So yeah, like I mean, spirituality. Like I'm a deeply spiritual person, not religious.
Hmm.
So
Me
I
too.
just look and yeah, it's like I have a lot of friends that have different types of ways that they connect to their spirituality. And for me, I'm not here to say what's wrong or right. So for me, I feel as long as a person's connected to something bigger than themselves,
Mm.
and it is that awareness that, hey, that's the inner game here,
Hmm.
then to me, that's the spirituality.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
And in doing that, when you apply that to business, you're just saying you operate from that space as you're more connected, then naturally stuff unfolds, or is there specific things that you talk to people about in that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at its base, it's like, are you here for something bigger than yourself?
Mm,
Number one, are you here for something bigger than yourself?
right.
Most of us, myself included, have to have a brush with death, or pretty close to like get that orientated, or some people have kids or different things. So it's like,
Mm,
yeah, what are we here that's bigger than ourselves? And are we making a positive imprint with our time here?
I love it. I love it. Can you talk a bit about, I know you brought it up several times, but the idea of subconscious clearing? A, when you talk about that, what is it first and foremost? And then B, if you're open to it, is there something you could give people a strategy? Hey, try this out.
Yeah, so this is one of the tools that's been very impactful for my journey,
Hmm.
and it's a colleague of Nicholas. That was my mentor with the Soul Contract, or is my mentor.
Hmm.
And so one of his colleagues developed a subconscious clearing tool,
Hmm.
and she was an Irish doctor who, when she had her awakening, she was so sick and tired of seeing people with ailments, and they would be getting drugs that would just be addressing the symptoms, but not the root cause.
Hmm.
And so when she had this awakening, she mapped all these different ailments to parts of the subconscious mind and
Hmm.
all different charts.
Hmm.
So the method actually asks your subconscious mind of like what's the issue at the top level, and then almost like there's all these different files and cabinets, in our subconscious mind, like where is it?
Hmm.
And then it speaks a certain clearing to that area in the mind.
Hmm.
So I do a weekly subconscious clearing webinar every Thursday
Cool.
with people, and I can share the link for that too,
Yeah,
and
please do.
give everybody a free month coupon code too.
Cool. That'd be great.
Yeah, and yeah, so in this, people come to the experience feeling, say, stressed, anxious, burdened,
Yeah.
the things that naturally come up in our week. And when I guide them through, they can actually feel it in their body, like the tightness in the chest, that feels like, oh, like the heaviness.
Hmm.
And so during this process, and we keep it tight to an hour, the clearing happens, and then they feel peace, clarity, lightness, relaxedness, and then they're ready to go on their day.
Hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. I think that's super exciting. Actually, I'm looking forward to getting that myself and then getting it out to everybody. There's so many different things that it's interesting because I think a lot of the times when we think if we're entrepreneurial or career driven, that as you experience in the early part of your first business is just, well, I'm going to work harder, work more hours. I'll just make more phone calls, do more of this, do more meetings, do that stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a level of that does work to some degree, yet it's definitely not the formula for most people to lead a happy and fulfilling life. Right. And
Right.
I'm curious your thoughts on this. I've noticed that it seems like we have almost this hypnosis in society that more is better, right? More work, more
Yeah.
money, more all these things. And the second thing too is that everything is pushed off to a later date. Once such and such happens, then I can feel the way I want to feel, do what I want to do, whatever it might be. So I want to hear your thoughts on the idea of really, okay, you're listening, they're listening right now. Maybe they got their full-time job, they've got their business on the side. That's what they love. They want to start to do more transition. What are some steps people can start taking to, I guess, moving more in the direction of where they want to be? As you mentioned, some people can just drop it and jump in, but most people, that's not reality, right? That's a
Yeah.
difficult thing for them to do. So what steps would you give people to start with?
Yes, let's see. So the steps for transitioning. And so if it feels like you're split between, say, your moneymaker
Mm-hmm.
and your passion,
Mm-hmm.
that feels like you, then through years of working with people through this, um, getting the passion started now, 1 hour a week, 2 hours a week,
Mm-hmm.
or 30 minutes a day, like getting that rhythm in place. Because visually, how I see it, it's almost like, say, like the gray energy is the money making business.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you used to love it. It used to be incredible. Maybe you dreamed about it and it was
Mm-hmm.
fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
You got there. So, and it is a gift. It's probably, it's a gift and provides for all these different things for you. So that's great. It's
Mm-hmm.
there, but just the reality is it feels like a gray kind of womp womp,
Mm-hmm.
right now. So the thing is like that starts draining people of like their life force, their energy.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you think of somebody who's like fresh, exuberant, and just filled with life, doesn't feel there. And I know it's because I've been there too.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of my story is that I went from 100-hour work weeks, did everything the opposite after that lowest point, subconscious clearing, soul contract, freedom instincts. That got me 1 hour a week in my marketing agency. So 100 hours to 1 hour a
Wow.
week. So what I'm sharing here is that after I got that 1 hour a week, I was starting to feel kind of like that gray energy as well, where I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, I really want to have, the true freedom software. So the thing is with your passion, when that lights you up and you just feel like you feel lit up, is to not wait. All right, well, let me grind out all the gray stuff and then wait until the lights up because it
Mm-hmm.
just doesn't work. Like, I've just seen it so many times in so many places, so many faces. Like it just does not work because we're like
Mm-hmm.
getting drained of the life force
Mm-hmm.
energy. And the interesting thing is it gets worse and worse. This is just the reality. So since as we're getting drained in like the pay the bills work, we start getting less effective at it because our heart, mind, and spirit is like really with the passion thing. So there's like a ticking time clock with it. So what I found is to bring in that passion, 1 hour a week minimum, 30 minutes a day if you can, and that'll start lighting you up, start bringing you energy with it, and then things can naturally happen for that.
I love it. What a great strategy. Just get started. I think what's so important about that is that I feel like a lot of people, if they're, again, they got their full-time job or career or business, whatever it is, and they've got this passion, it can often feel like an all or nothing kind of mentality. Either I can do either or. What you're saying is give them immediate access to starting to feel lit up by an hour a week minimum.
Yes.
And in doing that, you release a lot more of that creative energy, which is probably even going to help them in their current career or business anyways.
Exactly, and that's such a great way to put it. I love how you said that. Release of the creative energy.
Mm,
Absolutely. So, and then I would say get with people who are following their passion too. No matter how
mm,
you have to do it, get with it. Because if you're going at it alone, the odds of success are tiny.
mm-hmm.
We're social creatures. That's how it is.
Yeah, totally, man. Totally. That's so good. I'm really happy we were able to talk about this stuff. I think it's more than ever is an important thing. I read something a while ago, and it was talking about the upcoming currency or the currency of the future was going to be joy, something like that. Where so much obviously is money, right? It's money, 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 and making money is great. I mean, it can provide a free life. It's amazing, right? It really is. And yet, if you're listening, and maybe as you're listening to Sebastian, you're thinking, okay, well, I know there's something out there for me, or I know that this business I am, I've got a whole nother level in it. I think digging into this stuff can really help you and bring a whole new level of happiness, fulfillment, success, joy. And the byproduct is you end up doing really well too.
Absolutely. If you've ever asked yourself, is this all there is?
Mm-hmm.
Then you're ready. You got something bigger.
There's something bigger.
Bigger for you.
Totally, man. Totally. Hey, where can people connect with you? So they want to learn more about you, learn from you.
Yeah, so truefreedom.ai,
Okay.
truefreedom.ai. And yeah, and that's where the software is, where right now we're helping teams work in flow state.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, that's the whole mission, but right
Mm-hmm.
now we're really focusing on purpose driven agencies with remote teams. So if you're a
Mm.
purpose-driven agency with remote teams, we've got the software ready to deploy for you so that your team can be happier, healthier, more effective working in their zone of genius.
Very cool. Very cool. And then are you active on any of the social platforms?
Yeah, I mean, kind of, but kind of not. So
Yep.
like, it used to be more Facebook, and
Yep.
then like I am on Instagram. Feel free to message me on either of those.
Sure.
I kind of go in and out of like checking them and not checking them,
Yep.
but yeah.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Well, we'll put those in the show notes for everybody. And then, yeah, I guess just in closing, you went from stressed out and working all the time and, it was making money, and then to losing it all, and then really realizing that, hold on a second, there's something bigger in store for me, and that whole life journey. Um, I'm curious if you could only leave people with one thought or something that, maybe we haven't talked about, or maybe we did, that this one thing made the biggest impact in your life that allowed you to move from there to where you are now. What would you want to leave people with?
I'd say your passion is not negotiable.
Mm,
Passion is not negotiable because, 10 years ago for me, as I was going through this, passion was like a dirty word. It
hmm,
was like, oh, your passion, blah, blah, blah. Like it was, especially in the business world. And
hmm,
now all the studies and stats, and there's tons on Forbes, have swung the other way of how passion is the key ingredient. Like the stat I've shared is according to Forbes, top executives report being 5 times more productive when in flow state.
mm,
5 times more productive. All these ways that organizations are trying to squeeze out productivity, and then, oh, here, look at flow state. You have to be passionate about it. You have to feel connected to it. Go figure.
hmm,
So when you say the joy is the currency of the future, absolutely, because when people are happy, healthy, become more effective.
hmm.
So that's what I'd say is that your passion is non negotiable. It's actually your greatest asset, it's your greatest superpower. And now we're living in a time that the people that don't connect to their passion are already behind, and
Mm.
those that do, flying high and making the impact they want to make.
I love it, man. Thank you so much. This has been great, Sebastian. Everybody, I know you love the episode. Do us a favor, share it with just one person. Make sure to send this to somebody else. And maybe it's going to ignite their passion for them. It might be that push over the edge, and where they no longer negotiate their passion, as Sebastian was saying. So thanks for tuning in. If you're new to the show, subscribe, leave us a review, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, Sebastian.
Thanks.